For our first activity here in our acrylic paint beginner exercises is we're going to do a value scale. So I've got my plexiglass right here and I'm going to start to set up my color. So I'm going to use green as my color that I'm going to do a value scale. You're going to see I'm just going to put a little drop of the paint there. I am not going to use a whole lot. And I'm going to add a little white over here. We can always add more paint if we need it. And you can choose a dark brown color from your set or a black. I'm going to use burnt umber. Sometimes I like to use brown instead of black because sometimes the black can get a little bit too intense when I am color mixing. All right. I've got my water over on the side and a paper towel, so let's get started. I'm going to start with the pure hue itself in my center. Might need, depending on your paint, a little bit of water to move it through. Okay, so I've got the pure color right here. Now I'm going to create a tint. I just take a little bit of white and a little bit of the green. And I add that tint. I'm gonna keep doing that, adding a little bit more white each time. I need a little bit more of a middle there. There we go. All right, a little bit lighter, and we're gonna get lighter and lighter as we go towards the top. All right, so now I'm gonna go into my shades. Like I said, I like to use a brown to get my shades to be darker. You can also use a black. Either one will be fine. Start to explore the differences between using brown and black in your own practice activities and see which one you like more. All right, so now I'm making a little bit of a shade here. I think that's a good shade darker. Now you're gonna start to see, even when we look at this little example here, it's a really good example to look at before we get started with creating paintings with acrylic paint, because some acrylic paint is thicker than others depending on just what you buy, or sometimes it depends on the color. When I look here at my green, you can see it's a little bit transparent here. That means that this green, and I always stress that whatever color you use, you should always be mixing colors. When I make a painting, I don't like to take colors right out of the bottle. I like to mix them up because look at how much better it looks as it starts to mix with other colors. It has more opacity to it. It becomes thicker. So I really love to show you guys that because it's good to get into the habit of mixing your own colors. Now look at right here, I've got some extra paint. Just like I always do, I am going to take my extra paper off on the side and just use it. Use the rest of this paint on that paper. I always have a little side paper and I just take that extra paint and throw it on it. Let it just build up on a page somewhere and I can turn this into some artwork later. For this next activity here, we're going to create a gradation, which is basically a value scale like we did over on the other side, but it's going to just blend together. Instead of seeing these separate sections here, you're not going to see that. You want to see it be nice and smooth, a smooth gradation. So if you still have your paint from the last activity, you can use that other color, or we could switch it up. I'm going to do a blue. I'm going to start by adding the blue here. Leaving this section here open, that's where I'm going to add the light. I'm cleaning my brush completely, so there's no blue on it. And now I'm going in with the white on this side, and I'm just going to sweep over that blue. Now you're going to see me kind of sweep back and forth over here. This blue, if it dries, you got to add some more to it and just keep sweeping through. If I get too much blue on there, I don't want to go back into the white with too much blue, so I'm going to start in with the white paint, sweep over here. Now, acrylic paint dries really fast. You can use a little water to wake it up as you're painting. Some of your paint may dry over on the side as you're working and it gets thinned out. Sometimes you can take a little bit of water and spray it. That's what that is there for. But that is a simple gradation using that technique of sweeping back and forth with your brush. Now I'm going to mix from one color to another here. A lot like what we did up here, this is going to a tint, so creating a lighter. I'm going to go from one color to another over here. You can choose whatever colors you want to make work for this. Since I used green on the other side, I'm going to add a little green over here and use that. So my last one down here, I am going to do a glazing technique, which is a little bit different because I'm going to work with drying time. So I'm going to start with some blue here. And I'm just going to water down, kind of like what we did with the watercolors. You can see that acrylic paint can be a thinner wash too. Some artists love to use this type of quality here. Now I'm gonna let that dry and I'm gonna work in another color. All right, so I am gonna use some of this green that I have here and bring it in. What you're learning with this technique is that you can create layers in your paintings. A glaze is always a thinner, transparent layer on top of another dry layer. And you can do that with acrylic paint. You can do that with really all paint. You can either have thick applications or thin applications depending on what it is that you're looking to do with your artwork. Remember that acrylic paint, when it touches each other, it will start to stick. So if you have a page spread like this, you ever create a page spread like this, you want to put something in between, a paper in between, so that that acrylic paint doesn't stick, especially if you get like a little chunk of acrylic paint that's thicker there. That is going to happen a little bit more. So take a piece of paper and put it in between your sketchbook in pages like this.